The mining station Kepler 442b had been silent for 3 standard galactic months when the Zephyrian patrol ship Windcutter detected the faint emergency beacon. Captain Vexhai clicked his mandibles in annoyance as the signal registered on his scanner. Another dead human facility, no doubt. The Terran Colonial Authority had been expanding too fast, establishing mining operations in sectors they couldn't properly defend. Another human distress call, Captain, reported Navigator Kesslin from her station. Same sector where we found those destroyed settlements last month. Vexhai's four eyes narrowed. The Kralex Dominion had been systematically wiping out human colonies for the past year, and the galactic community had done little to stop it. Most species considered humans a minor spacefaring race, aggressive but technologically inferior. Their rapid expansion had made them enemies, and few mourned when Kralex battle fleets reduced their outposts to rubble. Standard procedure, Vexhai ordered. Scan for survivors, salvage what we can, file the report. The Windcutter approached the mining station carefully. The facility hung in space like a broken toy, its hull twisted and scorched from plasma cannon fire. Sections had been deliberately targeted. The reactor, communications array, and docking bays all showed precise destruction. This wasn't random violence. It was methodical extermination. Detecting one life sign, reported scanner technician Mordek. Human biosignature, very weak. They're in what appears to be a maintenance shaft in the lower section. Vexhai felt a twinge of respect. Whoever had survived had shown remarkable resourcefulness to hide from the Kralex raiders. Beam them directly to Medical Bay. Full quarantine protocols. The medical scanner activated, and within moments a human male materialized on the sterile platform. He was young by human standards, perhaps 25 solar cycles, with brown hair matted by dried blood and clothes torn from crawling through ventilation shafts. But his eyes, those strange human eyes, burned with something that made Vexhai step back instinctively. Dr. Yelenar rushed forward with her medical scanner. Severe dehydration, multiple lacerations, possible concussion. He's been surviving on emergency rations for weeks. She paused, reading her instruments. Captain, this is remarkable. His stress hormone levels indicate he should have died from shock days ago, but somehow his body is still functioning. The human tried to speak, but only managed a hoarse whisper. Dr. Yelenar quickly administered a hydration solution and a universal translator patch. Thank you, the human said, his voice gaining strength. I'm Engineer Marcus Chun, civilian contractor attached to Mining Station Kepler 442b. I've been hiding since the attack. How many others? Vexhai asked. Marcus's face hardened. 327 people worked this station. Mining crew, administrators, their families. The Kralex didn't just destroy the facility, they boarded it. They hunted down every person individually. His hands clenched into fists. I heard the screams through the vents. They took their time. Navigator Kesslin exchanged glances with her captain. The Kralex were known for their efficiency, not their cruelty. This suggested something more systematic. Did you see their ships? Vexhai inquired. How many vessels? 4 heavy cruisers, maybe 8 support craft. But, Captain, Marcus sat up straighter despite his injuries. They weren't just raiding. They were collecting data from our computers, biological samples from the crew, recordings of human voices, and behavioral patterns. This wasn't a random attack. Dr. Yelenar's tentacles twitched with concern. Biological samples? That sounds like xenocide preparation, Vexhai finished grimly. The Galactic Council had outlawed such research centuries ago, but the Kralex Dominion operated outside galactic law in the frontier sectors. Marcus struggled to his feet. Captain, I need to contact Earth. The Colonial Authority has to know what the Kralex are planning. Earth? Vexhai's mandibles clicked in what humans might mistake for laughter. Young human, Earth is 47 hyperspace jumps away. Even if we could reach them, what could one backward planet do against the Kralex Dominion? They control 300 star systems. The human's response surprised him. Instead of despair or acceptance, Marcus smiled, a predatory expression that didn't belong on the face of a supposed inferior species. Captain, with respect, you don't understand humans very well. We don't abandon our own. Ever. Marcus moved to the nearest communication terminal. May I? Something in the human's tone made Vexhai step aside. Marcus's fingers flew across the interface with practiced efficiency, bypassing security protocols that should have taken hours to crack. This is engineer Marcus Chun, survivor of mining station Kepler 442b, broadcasting on all Terran emergency frequencies. 327 civilians murdered by Kralek's forces. Genocide protocol evidence confirmed. This is not a raid. This is extermination. Chin out. That message will take months to reach any human colony, Kesslin pointed out. Marcus shook his head. It'll reach the nearest Terran listening post in 6 days. And from there, he turned to face the Zephyrian crew. You've been very kind, but I need to ask for one more favor. Can you take me to the nearest neutral station? Of course, Vexhai replied. The free port at Meridian 7 is only 3 days away. Good. I'll need to send some messages from there. Coded transmissions on civilian channels that the Kraleks won't think to monitor. Dr. Yelenar frowned. What kind of messages? Marcus's smile grew wider. The kind that let Earth know exactly where to find the ship that killed our people. You see, Doctor, humans have a saying, no one gets left behind. The Kraleks think they rescued one human when they let me live. They have no idea what's about to happen. The medical bay fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Vexhai studied the human engineer with new eyes. There was something here he was missing, some crucial element of human nature that 3 months of galactic intelligence reports had failed to convey. Marcus, he said carefully, your species is classified as a minor spacefaring civilization. Your technology is centuries behind the Kraleks. Your total population across all colonies is less than 50 million. How exactly do you propose to respond to this attack? The human sat down at the communication terminal and began entering complex equations into the computer. Captain, do you know why humans were able to develop faster than light travel in less than 2 centuries after achieving spaceflight? Your species showed unusual adaptability, Kesslin answered. Rapid technological integration. That's part of it. But the real reason is that we never accept limitations as permanent. When we encounter something impossible, we don't adapt to it. We change it. Marcus's fingers continued flying across the controls. The Kraleks think in terms of established power structures. They see a minor civilization and assume we'll behave according to predicted patterns. The communication console began displaying data streams that made Vexhai's eyes water with complexity. Engineering specifications, star charts, tactical analyses, all flowing past at speeds that suggested the human was processing information at near-cybernetic rates. What are you doing? Dr. Yelenar asked. Calculating hyperspace jump coordinates for a fleet that doesn't officially exist yet. Mapping sensor blind spots in Kralek's patrol routes. Identifying supply chains and communication relays. Marcus paused and looked up at the Zephyrian crew. The Kraleks made one critical mistake when they attacked our station. Which was? Vexhai prompted. Marcus Chin's smile became something that would have given a Kraleks warrior nightmares. They left a witness alive who knows exactly how they fight, exactly how their ships are configured, and exactly how to kill them efficiently. The engineer returned to his calculations, and the medical bay filled with the soft clicking of keys and the hum of processing data. Outside the viewport, stars wheeled slowly past as the wind cutter continued toward Meridian 7. None of the Zephyrian crew spoke, but each was thinking the same thing. Perhaps their intelligence reports on human capabilities had been incomplete. In the depths of space, 47 hyperspace jumps away, automated listening posts received Marcus Chin's emergency transmission and began routing it through channels that most galactic civilizations didn't know existed. The message would reach Earth in 6 days, just as he had predicted. But other messages were already traveling faster, carried by quantum-entangled communication arrays that humanity had neglected to mention in their diplomatic filings. In secure facilities hidden beneath Earth's surface, computers that officially didn't exist began calculating response scenarios. The Kraleks Dominion had rescued one human. They were about to discover what happened when humanity came to save the last survivor. Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the war room of Luna Command, watching holographic displays cascade data across the reinforced walls. The facility existed in the shadow of Earth's moon, hidden beneath 3 kilometers of manufactured asteroid debris. According to galactic records, Humanity's most advanced military installation was the orbital defense platform above Earth. According to reality, that platform was obsolete technology from 15 years ago. "Marcus is alive," she said to the assembled officers. "My nephew survived the Kepler 442b massacre." General Rodriguez leaned forward. "The transmission confirms Xenocide Protocol research. They're not just expanding territory, they're preparing to eliminate humanity entirely." Timeline. Admiral Chen asked. "Based on the biological samples they collected, our analysts estimate 6 months before they develop targeted bioweapons. Maybe 8 if we're lucky." Dr. Patel's fingers danced across her tablet. "But, Admiral, we have a more immediate problem. The Kralix fleet that hit Kepler 442b is moving toward the Centauri colonies. If they hit New Geneva, 40,000 civilians," Admiral Chen finished. "And our heaviest concentration of mining infrastructure." The war room fell silent. On paper, humanity had 12 military vessels scattered across 8 star systems, barely enough to patrol trade routes. The Galactic Council had approved this fleet size based on humanity's classification as a minor spacefaring civilization with limited technological capabilities. The classification was accurate, as far as it went. Humanity did have limited capabilities compared to elder galactic civilizations. They had simply chosen to be very selective about which capabilities they developed. "Status report on the Ghost Fleet," Admiral Chun ordered. Commander Kim activated a new holographic display. 73 vessels currently operational. 47 in active patrol, 26 in reserve maintenance cycles. All equipped with the latest stealth technologies and quantum disruption weapons. Crew readiness? Ghost crews have maintained full tactical certification during the peace period. Average combat experience level is higher than most galactic navies due to our unofficial conflicts with pirate factions in the Outer Rim. Admiral Chun smiled grimly. The galaxy's major civilizations had spent centuries perfecting massive fleets of heavily armed vessels designed to fight conventional wars between established powers. Humanity had instead focused on developing ships that simply couldn't be detected by conventional sensors and weapons that ignored conventional defenses. "Admiral," interrupted Lieutenant Torres from the communications station, "we're receiving quantum burst transmissions from our deep cover operatives in Kralix territory." "Display them." The holographic screens shifted to show intelligence reports flowing in from across Kralix space. Ship movements, supply chain analyses, command structure details, and, most importantly, the current location of the fleet responsible for the Kepler 442b massacre. "They're calling themselves the Purification Fleet," Lieutenant Torres reported. 4 heavy cruisers and 8 support vessels, just as Marcus described. Currently en route to the Centauri system, but they've made an unscheduled stop at a supply depot in the Vega sector. Crew complements: approximately 1,200 Kralix warriors total, plus support personnel. Standard loadout for a deep space extermination mission. General Rodriguez studied the tactical data. "Admiral, this is an opportunity. They're isolated from the main Kralix fleet, following a predictable route through sectors we've mapped extensively. If we're going to respond, this is our best chance." Admiral Chun turned to her science officer. "Dr. Patel, what do we know about Kralix physiology that they don't know we know?" The scientist's smile was not pleasant. "Their respiratory systems are optimized for high nitrogen atmospheres. They can't survive in standard oxygen-rich environments for more than a few minutes without protective gear. Their exoskeletons are incredibly durable against energy weapons, but vulnerable to kinetic impact. And, most interestingly, their neural implants that allow ship-to-crew communication create a massive electromagnetic signature we can track from quite impressive distances." Psychological profile? Classic apex predator mentality. They view themselves as the natural rulers of the galaxy and consider other species either subjects or prey. They've never encountered significant resistance to their expansion because most civilizations surrender rather than face extinction. But they've never fought humans, Commander Kim observed. Exactly. Their tactical doctrines are built around overwhelming firepower and psychological intimidation. They expect their enemies to break when faced with superior force. Admiral Chun moved to the central tactical display. "Gentlemen, ladies, we're going to teach the Kralix Dominion something about human psychology. Commander Kim, I want Ghost Squadron 7 deployed to intercept the Purification Fleet. Maximum stealth approach. Rules of engagement. Total elimination. No survivors. No debris large enough to identify as human technology. I want it to look like they encountered a natural phenomenon, spatial anomaly, perhaps a gravity well collapse. General Rodriguez frowned. Admiral, that's 15 ships against 4 heavy cruisers. Even with our technological advantages. General, you're thinking like a conventional military officer. We're not going to engage them in open combat. Admiral Chun highlighted specific points on the tactical display. Dr. Patel, what happens to Krolek's physiology in zero-gravity environments? Their exoskeletons become a liability. They're designed for high-gravity worlds and rely on weight distribution for balance. In zero-G, they become incredibly clumsy. And their weapon systems? Plasma-based energy weapons with excellent penetration but poor performance in vacuum environments. Their targeting systems are calibrated for atmospheric combat. Admiral Chin's smile grew predatory. Here's what we're going to do. Ghost Squadron will infiltrate the supply depot using quantum stealth approaches. They'll disable the depot's life support systems and artificial gravity generators, then withdraw to minimum safe distance. The Kroleks will be forced to perform repairs in zero gravity, Commander Kim realized. Their entire crew will be vulnerable. While wearing environmental suits that limit their mobility even further, Dr. Patel added. Admiral, that's brilliant. That's not the brilliant part, Admiral Chin corrected. The brilliant part is what happens after we rescue Marcus from that Zephyrian ship. Lieutenant Torres looked up from her communication station. Admiral, we're tracking the wind cutter approaching Meridian 7. ETA 6 hours. Good. I want a full Ghost Squadron extraction team standing by. We bring Marcus home. And then, we give the galaxy its first lesson in why you don't threaten human civilians. The war room buzzed with activity as officers began coordinating the most complex military operation in human history. On the tactical displays, ship positions shifted and calculation algorithms processed thousands of variables. Admiral, General Rodriguez said quietly, once we do this, there's no going back. The galaxy will know we've been hiding our true capabilities. The galaxy is about to learn that humans don't just rescue their own people, General. We rescue them with interest compounded. Admiral Chin studied the holographic display showing Krolek's ship positions. Marcus survived 3 months in hiding, waiting for us to find him. The Kroleks think that makes him weak. And they're wrong. Catastrophically wrong. Marcus isn't a survivor we're rescuing. He's an intelligence asset who's been gathering detailed information about enemy capabilities while positioning himself for extraction. Admiral Chin's expression hardened. My nephew isn't just an engineer, General. He's a Ghost Corps operative with 15 years of deep cover experience. The revelation sent shocked silence through the war room. Ghost Corps operatives were humanity's most classified military asset. Agents trained to infiltrate alien civilizations and gather intelligence while maintaining perfect cover identities. How long has he been monitoring Krolek's operations? Dr. Patel asked. 3 years. His assignment was to map their expansion patterns and identify tactical weaknesses. The attack on Kepler 442b was unexpected, but Marcus adapted. He's been feeding us detailed intelligence on Krolek's ship configurations, communication protocols, and command structures. Commander Kim leaned back in his chair. So when the Kroleks attacked the mining station, they didn't just kill 300 civilians and leave a witness, Admiral Chin finished. They killed 300 civilians and trapped themselves in an intelligence web that's been 3 years in the making. Marcus knows everything about how they fight, how they think, and, most importantly, how to kill them. On the holographic displays, Ghost Squadron ships began moving toward their intercept coordinates. Each vessel was invisible to conventional sensors, armed with weapons that most galactic civilizations couldn't even theoretically detect. The Krolek's purification fleet continued toward Centauri space, unaware that they were about to become the first enemy force to discover what humanity's military was actually capable of. In the depths of space near Meridian 7, Marcus Chin waited aboard the Zephyrian ship, his coded messages already transmitted to deep cover operatives throughout Krolek's territory. The Kroleks had rescued 1 human, thinking they'd saved a random survivor. They had actually kidnapped one of humanity's most dangerous intelligence operatives. And now his family was coming to bring him home. The Kralex supply depot at Vega Prime hung in space like a metallic spider web, its corridors and docking arms extending from a central hub designed to service entire battle fleets. Commodore Thacrex supervised the refueling operations with typical Kralex efficiency, his armored form moving through the depot's command center with predatory grace. "Status report," he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of a species that had conquered 14 civilizations. "Fuel transfers at 60% completion," reported his second-in-command. "Ammunition resupply proceeding normally. We should be ready to continue toward the human colonies within 12 standard hours." Thacrex clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. The purification fleet had performed admirably at Kepler 442b. The humans had died with appropriate fear, and the biological samples would advance the Dominion's xenocide research significantly. Soon, humanity would join the growing list of species that existed only in Kralex archives. "Commodore," interrupted Communications Officer Veltar, "we're detecting some minor fluctuations in the depot's power grid. Engineering reports it's probably age-related deterioration in the primary conduits." "How minor?" "Temporary drops in artificial gravity generation, some inconsistencies in life support distribution. Nothing that should affect our operations." Thacrex dismissed the report with a wave of his clawed hand. The depot was ancient by galactic standards, built by a conquered civilization whose name the Kralex no longer bothered to remember. Minor technical problems were to be expected. 15 kilometers away, invisible to every sensor the Kralex possessed, Ghost Squadron 7 maintained perfect formation. Commander Maria Santos watched the depot through quantum stealth observation arrays that could map individual life forms through solid metal. Her ships hung in space like technological ghosts, their hulls absorbing and redirecting all electromagnetic radiation. "Target confirmation," reported her tactical officer. 4 heavy cruisers, 8 support vessels, approximately 1,200 Kralex personnel distributed between ships and depot facilities. Engineering assessment. Lieutenant Commander Parks studied his displays. The depot's design is remarkably centralized. All life support and gravity generation flows through a single primary hub. If we disable that hub, the entire structure loses environmental controls simultaneously. Timeline for repairs. Kralex engineering protocols require minimum 4 hours to restore basic life support to a facility this size. Gravity generation would take at least 8 hours. Commander Santos smiled grimly. "More than enough time. Initiate quantum phase approach. I want us inside their perimeter without disturbing so much as a dust particle." The Ghost Squadron ships began their infiltration, moving through space in ways that conventional physics suggested were impossible. Their hulls existed in a state of quantum uncertainty, technically present but unobservable by any known detection method. To Kralex sensors, the area around their depot remained completely empty. "Approaching depot infrastructure," reported Navigator Chun. "Quantum phase generators are holding steady. We're essentially operating in a parallel dimensional space." "Weapon status?" "Quantum disruption charges armed and ready. Each charge will appear to be random mechanical failure to their diagnostic systems." Commander Santos studied the tactical display. "Target priorities: gravity generators, life support hubs, communication arrays, and emergency backup systems. I want them stranded in zero gravity with limited air recycling and no way to call for help." The attack began with surgical precision. Quantum disruption charges materialized inside the depot's critical systems and detonated at the molecular level, causing mechanical failures that appeared completely natural. To Kralex engineers monitoring their systems, it seemed as if centuries of wear finally caught up with the aging station. Gravity generators failed first. Throughout the depot, Kralex personnel found themselves floating in zero gravity, their massive armored forms suddenly clumsy and disoriented. Emergency lights activated as life support systems began shutting down in cascade failures. "What's happening?" Commodore Thacrex demanded, grabbing a support beam as he drifted through the command center. "Complete system failure, Commodore," Veltar reported, struggling with his controls while floating upside down. gravity generators offline, life support at 30%, and falling, emergency power systems are not responding. Cause: unknown. Our diagnostic systems show mechanical failure across multiple redundant systems. The probability of simultaneous failure in so many independent systems is. Veltar's calculations paused. Mathematically impossible, Commodore. Thacrex's combat instincts triggered warning signals throughout his enhanced nervous system. In 3 decades of military service, he had learned to trust impossible coincidences were never coincidental. Battle stations. Full scanner sweep of surrounding space. Commodore, our scanner arrays are operating at 15% capacity due to power failures. Then, use what we have. If this is an attack. The scanning results showed empty space in all directions. No ships, no energy signatures, no indication of hostile activity. The Krallex fleet hung helplessly around a dying depot, their sensors detecting nothing but the vast emptiness of interstellar void. Engineering teams to environmental suits, Thacrex ordered. Full damage assessment and emergency repairs. I want this depot operational within 6 hours. Commodore, Veltar said carefully. Our personnel aren't trained for zero-gravity repair work. Krallex physiology isn't designed for extended operations without artificial gravity. Thacrex's mandibles clicked with frustration. Their species had evolved on a high-gravity world, and their armored exoskeletons relied on weight distribution for balance and coordination. In zero-gravity, his warriors became clumsy giants struggling against their own protective equipment. Begin repairs anyway. Use magnetic anchoring systems, and work in short shifts. Throughout the depot, Krallex engineers began the slow, awkward process of emergency repairs. Their movements were sluggish and uncertain as they fought against armor designed for terrestrial combat. What should have been routine maintenance became an exhausting struggle against equipment that had suddenly become a liability. Commander Santos watched the proceedings through quantum observation systems. Phase 2 initiation. Begin selective targeting of repair teams. The Ghost Squadron ships moved closer, their quantum disruption weapons beginning a new kind of attack. Individual Krallex engineers working on critical repairs found their tools mysteriously malfunctioning. Welding units failed mid-operation. Diagnostic computers crashed without explanation. Progress slowed to a crawl as frustrated repair teams were forced to abandon increasingly complex workarounds. Commodore, Engineering Chief Carvin reported over increasingly unreliable communications. We're experiencing unprecedented equipment failures. Our tools are malfunctioning faster than we can replace them. Could this be some kind of electromagnetic weapon? Our scanners don't detect any hostile energy signatures. But, Commodore, the pattern of failures suggests deliberate sabotage. Someone or something is systematically preventing our repairs. In the Ghost Squadron command ship, Commander Santos received a priority transmission on quantum-encrypted channels. Command to Ghost 7. Primary target approaching extraction coordinates. Proceed to Phase 3. Confirmed, Command. Initiating psychological warfare protocols. The nature of the attack changed. Instead of simply preventing repairs, the Ghost Squadron began introducing new problems faster than the Krallex could solve them. Backup power systems that had been functioning suddenly died. Spare parts vanished from storage compartments. Emergency supplies developed inexplicable contamination. Most disturbing to Krallex psychology were the sounds. In a species that relied heavily on auditory communication, the depot's failing systems began producing noise patterns that triggered primal fear responses. Hull contractions created rhythmic beating sounds that resembled Krallex death songs. Atmospheric recycling systems generated frequency patterns that interfered with their neural implants. Commodore, Veltar's voice carried an edge of panic. The crew is reporting unusual psychological stress. The equipment failures are following patterns that seem almost intelligent. Thacrex forced himself to remain calm, but his own enhanced instincts were screaming warnings. In zero gravity, surrounded by failing systems and mysterious malfunctions, his proud Krallex warriors were beginning to show signs of the one emotion their species had nearly forgotten: fear. How long until we can restore basic life support? At current repair rates, possibly 14 hours, Commodore. If the mysterious failures continue. 14 hours. in zero gravity, wearing environmental suits, with limited air recycling and failing equipment. Thacrex realized that his purification fleet was trapped, helpless, and slowly running out of time. Somewhere in the empty space around them, something was methodically destroying his forces without revealing itself. Something that could penetrate their defenses, disrupt their equipment, and remain completely invisible to their sensors. For the first time in his military career, Commodore Thacrex began to understand what it felt like to be prey. 15 kilometers away, Commander Santos prepared for the final phase of her operation. The Kraleks were weakened, disoriented, and psychologically vulnerable. Soon, Marcus Chun would be safely aboard a human vessel. And then, the Kraleks would discover what happened when humanity came to rescue their own. The free port at Meridian 7 buzzed with activity as dozens of species conducted business in the galaxy's most notorious neutral trading hub. Captain Vexhai guided the wind cutter through the controlled chaos of docking procedures, watching Marcus Chun prepare for departure with growing curiosity about human nature. "I still don't understand," Vexhai admitted as they approached the docking platform. "You've sent coded messages to Earth, but you're leaving this ship to meet someone at a trading station. How does this accomplish a rescue mission?" Marcus finished adjusting his borrowed clothing and smiled. "Captain, the rescue mission started the moment you picked up my distress signal. Everything since then has been coordination. But you're just one person. Am I?" Marcus moved to the viewport and pointed at a seemingly empty section of space near the station. "Captain, could you do me a favor? Run a full-spectrum sensor sweep of coordinates 127 Mark 15. Vexhai's mandibles clicked with confusion, but he nodded to Navigator Kesslin. Scanning. The scanner results showed empty space, exactly as expected around a civilian trading station. "Nothing there, Marcus. Standard background radiation and trace debris. Now try scanning for quantum phase distortions." "Quantum phase, we don't have equipment capable of detecting theoretical energy signatures." Marcus's smile widened. "Captain, what did I tell you about human attitudes toward impossible limitations?" The human moved to the scanning console and began entering modifications to the sensor array. His fingers worked with the same inhuman speed Vexhai had observed earlier, recalibrating equipment in ways that should have taken engineering teams days to accomplish. "There," Marcus said, stepping back from the console. "Try the scan again." The results made every Zephyrian on the bridge step back in shock. Where empty space had been moments before, the sensors now detected 17 ships in perfect formation. Each vessel was larger than the wind cutter, equipped with weapon systems that registered as completely unknown to the ship's computer and apparently invisible to conventional detection methods. "How is this possible?" Dr. Yilin AR whispered. "Quantum stealth technology," Marcus explained casually. "Our ships exist in a state of dimensional uncertainty, technically present, but unobservable unless you know exactly how to look for them." Captain Vexhai studied the tactical display with new respect. "These are military vessels. The most advanced military vessels in the galaxy," Marcus corrected. "Captain, humanity has been developing technology specifically designed to fight enemies with superior conventional forces. We can't match Kralek's firepower, so we focused on making sure they can't even find us to shoot at. But your government reports to the Galactic Council indicate. Our government reports indicate exactly what we want other civilizations to believe about our capabilities." Marcus gathered his few possessions. "Captain, the Kraleks think they're fighting a minor spacefaring civilization with limited defensive capabilities. They've never encountered quantum phase weapons, molecular disruption fields, or zero-point energy systems." The communication console activated with an incoming transmission. A human voice spoke in clear galactic standard. Wind cutter asterisk. "This is Captain Elizabeth Hayes of the UES Phantom. We're here to bring Marcus home." Vexhai activated the communication system. "Captain Hayes, this is Captain Vexhai of the Zephyrian vessel wind cutter. We've provided medical assistance to your engineer." A pause. "Thank you, Captain. Marcus, are you ready for extraction?" "Ready for extraction and mission completion," Marcus replied, emphasizing the final words. Another human voice joined the conversation, older and carrying unmistakable authority. "Marcus, this is Admiral Chun. Status report. Full intelligence package compiled and ready for transfer, Aunt Sarah. Target confirmation positive. The purification fleet is currently trapped at Vega Prime Supply Depot with disabled life support and no operational combat capacity. Captain Vexhi's four eyes widened. Trapped? How do you know? Because Ghost Squadron 7 disabled their systems 6 hours ago, Marcus explained. Captain, the coded messages I sent weren't just notifications to Earth. They were operational coordination with human forces already in position throughout this sector. The tactical display updated again, showing movement vectors for the 17 human ships. They were departing Meridian 7 in perfect formation, heading toward coordinates that Vexhi recognized as the location of Kralek's Supply Depot Vega Prime. You're going to attack them? Dr. Yelenar asked. We're going to rescue Marcus and ensure the Kraleks understand the consequences of threatening human civilians. Admiral Chen's voice responded. Captain Vexhi, you and your crew have shown extraordinary kindness to a member of our species. Humanity does not forget such gestures. We were simply following basic humanitarian protocols. Nevertheless, you will find that certain trade agreements between Earth and the Zephyrian Republic become remarkably favorable in the coming months. We take care of our friends, Captain. Marcus moved toward the airlock. Captain Vexhi, thank you for saving my life. Dr. Yelenar, thank you for your medical care. Navigator Kesslin, thank you for the excellent piloting that got us here safely. Wait, Vexhi called out. Marcus, what's going to happen to the Kralek's fleet? The human engineer paused at the airlock threshold. They killed 327 innocent people, Captain. Miners, administrators, children. They collected biological samples for xenocide research. They're planning to eliminate humanity entirely. But what will you do to them? Marcus's expression became something that made the Zephyrian captain remember why his species had evolutionary instincts about apex predators. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten human families. The airlock closed, and moments later the sensors detected a brief energy fluctuation as Marcus dematerialized in a transporter beam unlike any technology in the Zephyrian database. Captain, Navigator Kesslin said quietly, should we follow them? Vexhi considered the question. Set course for Vega Prime, maximum stealth approach. I want to see what humans actually do when they rescue their own people. The wind cutter changed course, following the human fleet at extreme range. On the tactical display, 17 impossible ships moved through hyperspace with precision that suggested decades of coordination and training. Captain Vexhi realized that the galactic community had fundamentally misunderstood humanity's place in the cosmic hierarchy. They had assumed that rapid technological development indicated desperation, a minor species struggling to catch up with established civilizations. The truth was far more disturbing. Humanity wasn't trying to catch up. They had been quietly surpassing everyone while maintaining the illusion of technological inferiority. Captain Dr. Yelenar observed, if humans possess this level of military capability, why haven't they expanded their territory? Why limit themselves to a few dozen colony worlds? Vexhi studied the sensor readings of the human fleet. Each ship represented technology that could revolutionize galactic civilization, weapons that could reshape the balance of power between major species, defensive capabilities that made conventional warfare obsolete. Because they're not conquerors, Doctor. They're defenders. They developed all this technology for one purpose, protecting their own people. He paused, considering the implications. The Kraleks attacked human civilians thinking they were targeting a weak species. Instead, they just declared war on the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. In hyperspace, 17 human ships approached the Kraleks purification fleet, with quantum stealth systems engaged and weapons powered by zero-point energy cascades. Their crews included veterans of conflicts the galactic community had never heard of, specialists trained in warfare against technologically superior enemies. The Kraleks had rescued one human, thinking they had saved a random survivor from their massacre. They had actually triggered the most sophisticated rescue operation in galactic history, conducted by a species that had spent decades preparing for exactly this kind of threat. At Vega Prime, Commodore Thacrex struggled with failing life support systems and mysterious equipment malfunctions, unaware that humanity's most advanced military forces were already in position around his helpless fleet. The rescue mission was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn why you never threaten human families. Commodore Thacrex floated helplessly in the disabled command center of Vega Prime Depot, his massive armored form struggling against zero gravity, while emergency lights cast eerie shadows through the failing station. 14 hours had passed since the mysterious system failures began, and his engineering teams had made virtually no progress in restoring basic life support. Commodore, Communications Officer Veltar reported through static-filled transmissions, "We're detecting some kind of energy fluctuation in the surrounding space. Our damaged sensors can't identify the source, but the patterns are unusual." Define unusual. The energy signatures appear to be moving in formation, Commodore, as if multiple objects are maintaining precise positions around our fleet. Thacrex's combat instincts screamed warnings. Battle stations. All vessels prepare for possible hostile contact. Commodore, our weapon systems are operating at 20% capacity due to power failures. And we still have no visual or scanner confirmation of any hostile forces. Then, explain the energy signatures. Before Veltar could respond, every functional display screen throughout the Kralex fleet activated simultaneously. The image that appeared showed a human female wearing a military uniform that registered as completely unfamiliar to Kralex databases. Commodore Thacrex, the human said in perfect Kralex, "I am Admiral Sarah Chun of the Terran Defense Force. You are surrounded by 17 vessels of the human Ghost Fleet. You have 30 seconds to surrender unconditionally." Thacrex's mandibles clicked with outrage. "Human, your species lacks the technology to penetrate our sensor networks. This is some kind of primitive deception." Admiral Chen's smile was predatory. "Marcus, would you care to demonstrate our technological capabilities to the Commodore?" The camera angle shifted to show a young human male that Thacrex recognized with shock as the survivor from Kepler 442b. But instead of the broken, terrified civilian he expected, Marcus Chun wore the same military uniform as the Admiral and carried himself with unmistakable professional confidence. "Hello, Commodore," Marcus said pleasantly. "Allow me to introduce myself properly. I'm Commander Marcus Chun, Ghost Corps Intelligence Division. I've been monitoring your operations for 3 years. Impossible. You were a civilian contractor. I was a deep-cover operative gathering intelligence on Kralex expansion patterns and military capabilities. The mining station assignment was perfect cover for studying your forces." Marcus's expression hardened. "You killed 327 innocent people, Commodore. My friends, my colleagues, people under my protection. Your protection? You're a minor species with primitive technology." Marcus gestured off-screen, and the view shifted to show tactical displays that made Thacrex's blood freeze in his veins. The screens showed detailed schematics of every Kralex vessel in the purification fleet, complete technical specifications, crew complements, weapons loadouts, and, most impossibly, real-time internal layouts showing the exact position of every Kralex warrior. "We know everything about your ships, Commodore. Hull composition, shield frequencies, reactor design flaws, and crew distribution. We know that your plasma weapons can't target objects smaller than 2 meters in diameter. We know that your armor is vulnerable to molecular disruption at specific frequency ranges. We know that your neural implants create electromagnetic signatures we can track from 40 kilometers away." Thacrex stared at the impossible displays. "How do you possess this information?" "Because humanity has been preparing for this war for 15 years, Commodore. We identified the Kralex Dominion as an existential threat the moment you began expanding toward human space. We've had operatives throughout your territory, mapping your capabilities, studying your tactics, and developing countermeasures." Admiral Chin stepped back into view. "Commodore, your civilization makes a fundamental error in strategic thinking. You assume that technological superiority equals military superiority. You've spent centuries perfecting bigger guns and thicker armor while ignoring the possibility that smaller, smarter opponents might develop ways to make size and firepower irrelevant. You cannot threaten the Kralex Dominion. We control 300 star systems. Your empire controls 300 star systems," Marcus corrected. Your purification fleet controls nothing except some broken equipment floating in space around a disabled depot. Throughout the Kralek's vessels, warriors listened to the transmission with growing unease. Their proud fleet, designed to inspire terror in lesser species, had been reduced to helplessness by an enemy they couldn't even detect. "Admiral," Thacrex said carefully, "what are your terms?" "No terms, Commodore. No negotiations. No prisoner exchanges." Admiral Chen's voice carried the finality of absolute judgment. "You conducted xenocide research on human biological samples. You murdered civilians, including children. You planned the systematic extinction of my species. We are soldiers following orders. You are war criminals, and you will be treated accordingly." The transmission ended, leaving the Kralek's fleet in tense silence. Around them, space appeared empty except for the distant stars and the failing depot. But Thacrex knew that 17 human vessels waited in the darkness, invisible and armed with weapons his people couldn't comprehend. "Commodore," Engineering Chief Carven reported, "we've managed to restore minimal power to the primary weapons array. Should we attempt to fire at random coordinates? With what targeting information? We can't see them to shoot at them." The first attack came without warning. Throughout the Kralek's fleet, critical systems began failing in cascade patterns that seemed almost artistic in their precision. Not random destruction, but surgical strikes designed to disable rather than destroy. Weapons systems died first. Plasma cannons overloaded and shut down permanently. Missile launchers jammed with their own ammunition. Shield generators created feedback loops that burned out their control circuits. Then, the life support failures accelerated. Atmospheric recycling systems began producing toxic gas mixtures. Water purification equipment introduced carefully calculated contaminants that would cause illness, but not immediate death. Food processing units developed mysterious mechanical problems. "They're not trying to kill us quickly," Veltar observed with growing horror. "They're systematically destroying our ability to function while keeping us alive to experience it." The second wave of attacks targeted Kralek's psychology directly. Throughout the fleet, armor-clad warriors began experiencing equipment failures that seemed designed to trigger primal fears. Environmental suits developed leaks in darkness that forced warriors to choose between removing their helmets or slowly suffocating. Magnetic boots released unexpectedly in zero gravity, sending heavily armored Kraleks tumbling helplessly through their own ships. Most disturbing were the sounds. Hull contractions created rhythmic patterns that resembled Kralek's death songs, while atmospheric systems generated frequencies that interfered with their neural implants and triggered evolutionary panic responses. "Commodore," Carven's voice carried barely controlled terror, "they're not just defeating us. They're systematically destroying our psychological resistance while demonstrating complete technological dominance." Thacrex forced himself to maintain command composure, but his own enhanced instincts were screaming warnings throughout his nervous system. In 3 decades of military service against dozens of species, he had never encountered an enemy capable of this level of precise, methodical psychological warfare. "Can we restore any combat capability?" "Negative, Commodore. Our weapons are permanently disabled, our shields are down, and our engines are operating at 15% power. We're completely helpless." The final transmission from Admiral Chun arrived as Kralek's warriors throughout the fleet began experiencing complete equipment failures. Their armor sealed permanently, trapping them in environmental suits with limited air supplies. Their communications systems died, leaving each warrior isolated in darkness. "Commodore," Admiral Chen's image appeared on the few remaining functional screens. "You have 10 minutes to abandon your vessels. Any Kralek's warrior who remains aboard will share the fate of those ships." "You're giving us a chance to surrender?" "I'm giving you a chance to witness what happens to forces that threaten human civilians." Emergency escape pods began launching from Kralek's vessels as warriors abandoned their ships in desperate haste. The pods clustered around the disabled depot, their occupants watching through viewports as their proud fleet hung motionless in space. What happened next would be discussed in Kralek's military academies for generations. The human attack began with weapons that existed only in theoretical physics journals. Molecular disruption beams reduced the massive Kralix warships to component atoms in perfectly controlled patterns. Quantum phase torpedoes eliminated matter at the subatomic level, leaving no debris larger than dust particles. Most terrifying to Kralix observers was the precision. The human weapons didn't simply destroy, they disintegrated with surgical accuracy that suggested complete understanding of Kralix technology and total confidence in human superiority. In 12 minutes, the purification fleet ceased to exist. 4 heavy cruisers and 8 support vessels that had represented decades of Kralix engineering and thousands of years of accumulated military tradition became clouds of harmless atoms dispersing into the cosmic void. Commodore, Admiral Chin's final transmission reached the escape pods. You will return to Kralix territory with this message. Humanity does not start wars, but we finish them. Any future attacks on human civilians will result in the complete elimination of Kralix military forces throughout the galaxy. You cannot threaten the entire Dominion. Commodore, we just demonstrated that your most advanced warships are completely helpless against our basic patrol vessels. Your empire exists because we permit it to exist. Remember that. The transmission ended, leaving 900 Kralix warriors floating in escape pods around a disabled depot, watching empty space where their fleet had been moments before. In the weeks that followed, the escape pods were rescued by Kralix recovery ships that found no trace of human technology. Official reports described the fleet's destruction as a result of catastrophic equipment failures during routine maintenance operations. But throughout Kralix territory, military commanders studied classified recordings of 17 impossible human ships demonstrating technological capabilities that rendered conventional warfare obsolete. The purification fleet had been eliminated by weapons that Kralix science couldn't even explain, operated by a species the Dominion had classified as technologically inferior. The Xenocide research program was quietly discontinued. Plans for attacking human colonies were permanently shelved. The Kralix Dominion began the painful process of acknowledging that they shared the galaxy with a civilization that had surpassed them while maintaining perfect camouflage of weakness. Marcus Chun returned to Earth as humanity's most successful intelligence operative, his 3-year mission complete. The Galactic Council received reports of the Purification Fleet's destruction with appropriate sympathy for Kralix losses and no suspicion of human involvement. And, throughout human space, Ghost Fleet patrols continued their invisible vigilance, protecting colonies that officially had only minimal defensive capabilities. The Kralix had rescued 1 human, thinking they had saved a random survivor. They discovered too late that they had triggered the most sophisticated military response in galactic history, conducted by a species that had spent decades preparing for threats the galaxy didn't know existed. Humanity had come back to save the last survivor. And the galaxy learned why human families were never truly alone in the darkness between stars.